Hey everyone, I'm going to narrate over this video. Here's what the deal is. I wanted to make New York pizza dough using a Poolish recipe. And I found one and I made it and I was not really happy with it. It was fine, it was a little better, but I thought there's better recipes out there, so I tried a second one. So I did two experiments, and instead of doing two different videos, I just combined them into one. And so the first part of this video is me doing the first Poolish experiment, and then the second part is me doing the second one with the second recipe. So what I'm doing here is mixing in the yeast and the water and the flour by hand. It was such a small amount, I'm just doing it by hand instead of the KitchenAid. I let the Poolish rest for 1 hour at room temperature, put it in the fridge overnight, took it out, let it rest for an hour, and this is what it looked like. And then I mixed in the rest of the ingredients: water, salt, olive oil, more flour, and made a dough ball out of it, a rough ball. I let the rough dough ball rest at room temperature for about 1 hour, and then I kneaded it a little bit and shaped it into a more refined dough ball and put that back in the fridge overnight. The next day, I took it out and let it rise at room temperature for about 2.5 or 3 hours, and then made a pizza out of it. This is my stock recipe. This is the Poolish one. They look pretty similar right now. Let's go ahead and see what the difference is. I'll start off with my stock recipe. What's up, sir? Okay, I'm going to check back in 4 minutes. Okay, it's been 4 minutes. I think it's looking about perfect. Looking good. Nice, this is about perfect. Okay, we're going to let the pizza oven load back up and then do the other one with the Poolish. Let's do the Poolish recipe now. So like I said, I'm going to put the Poolish recipe in the description. Basically, this took an extra day to make as opposed to my stock recipe. So if I'm going to do it again or do it often, it better be, noticeably better than my regular recipe. So the dough feels almost identical to the other one, maybe a tiny bit softer. Oops. Oh well. Okay, I'll check back in 4 minutes. Let's see. It's looking pretty good. Ouch, hot. Yeah, we're done. All right, let's bring it over and try it out. So let's just take a look. They actually look pretty similar. So this is the stock recipe. This is the Poolish. Now, I guess the Poolish is a little more airy inside there. Looks the same. Let's cut it up and see. Okay. Stock recipe like normal. There's going to be some larger air bubbles and then some more dense crust, on the rim. So a little more air in the rim. The air bubbles are just a little bit bigger. This looks almost like, pretty similar actually to that 90-hour recipe that I did recently. Can't feel it. It feels about the same. Yeah, feels about the same weight. Same density, same crispiness. Okay, let's see how the taste is. Good, that's what I'm used to. Hmm. The taste is definitely different. Not too close. Hmm. Okay, when I bite into the rim, I can definitely taste the difference in the texture, the density. So the Poolish does have like a crispier outside and a more spongy inside, but the actual taste is so similar. I don't know if I can taste any difference at all in the crust. Man, it's so similar, maybe a tiny bit different. Yeah, I'm gonna say they're the same. They taste the same. I do appreciate the texture in the Poolish a little bit more. It's not worth it though. It's not worth adding on an extra day. You know, I'm gonna try probably one more Poolish recipe and see how different it is. But for now, I'd have to say that, you know, if my stock recipe is an 8 out of 10, the Polish is like an 8.5 out of 10. It's not worth the extra time, really. So that's the conclusion. For the second Polish recipe, I mixed together the four main ingredients: water, flour, yeast, and sugar. Once I mixed it into a batter, I let it rest at the room temperature for 1 hour. Then I put it in the fridge overnight for about 16 or 18 hours. When I took it out of the fridge, I let it rest for an hour at room temperature, and then I added the rest of the ingredients, the rest of the water and flour and salt. I kneaded it a little bit into a rough ball, and then I let it rest for 1 hour, and I made it into a more refined ball, as you can see here. And then I let this final dough ball rest for about 2 hours at room temperature. It raised really fast, and then I prepared it for baking. All right, I've got my two dough balls here. My stock recipe one here I made last night. Like usual, I mixed the ingredients in the KitchenAid, and then I let it rest at room temperature for about 1 hour. Made the dough ball, put it in the fridge, took it out about an hour and a half ago. My Poolish recipe here, I made the dough ball about 2 hours ago. So this is what it looks like after 2 hours. I took the plastic wrap off just a second ago, and I immediately noticed the smell. The dough from the Poolish just smells more fragrant. It's really, really powerful, actually. Not in a bad way. It just is very fragrant. So they both look really good. I'm going to make my stock recipe pizza first. That Poolish one actually smells really good. I'm just not used to it. Like always, I'm going to use 75 grams of tomato sauce here. And 85 grams of mozzarella. Let me check the oven. 620 degrees, we're good to go. All right, it's going to take about 4 minutes. I think we're about ready. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna let the pizza pan load back up and then we'll make the other one. All right, I changed my mind. I'm gonna put it back in for like 20 more seconds. Let's take a look. There we go. There, that's a little better. A little more browning on the crust. Let's take a look. There we go. There, that's a little better. A little more browning on the crust. Let's start making the pizza with the Poolish dough. You know, the more I smell this, the more I like it. It just smells kind of malty, you know, not acidic or alcoholic, just malty. It's really good, actually. So the dough, right away I'm noticing the dough is a little more difficult to stretch than my stock recipe. Looks good, it smells good. It just was a lot more stretchy, elasticy, like it was always snapping back to its regular shape. I can tell the dough is very, very strong though. It's super thin here in the middle. Wow. If you see this, if I do that, it traps this air bubble. But it's just really strong. Let me check the temperature of the oven. We're at 630, so we are good to go. All right, I'll check back in 4 minutes. It's been 4 minutes. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's gonna need a few more seconds. All right, it's been about 4.5 minutes. It looks pretty good through the window. Let's check it out. I'm gonna put it back in for another 20, 30 seconds. It's close. All right, let's check it out. Looks pretty good. All right. I'm gonna put my first one back in for just about 45 seconds to a minute to reheat, and then we'll try them out. Here they both are. This is my stock recipe here. This is the one with the Poolish. Let's check out the bottoms. Bottoms look really similar, I believe. Yep. So the stock recipe here is a little more bubbly. And that may be to just a little bit longer rise at room temperature. I'm using 2 different recipes here. It was really hard to, coordinate them to get the rise to the maximum point at the same time. That may be it. But this is nice and soft, bubbly. This here too is bubbly, but it just has a little different feel to it. The outside is more crisp. Let me cut them up and check it out. Okay, here's the stock recipe. Here's the Poolish. You see the stock, even though the stock one has a few larger air bubbles. Let's give it a try. They're both very lightweight. What I'm used to. It's really good. The Poolish definitely has a better, stronger taste to it. The Poolish, to me, it tastes like the 90-hour rise that I just did. It just has a stronger flavor to it. It's good. I mean, I would pick the flavor of this one every time. This is close to a 10 out of 10 in flavor, and this is like an 8, 8.5. But it was a lot of extra work to make the Poolish one. So yeah, that's just really, really good crust. What I got to do now, I think, is do a comparison of the Poolish and the 90-hour recipe, because the 90-hour recipe was easier than the Poolish. It just required less of my time. I'm always looking for a recipe that's going to save me as much time as possible, you know? So that's it. That's the conclusion, is the Poolish is more flavorful. Other than that, it's pretty comparable. I mean, the bubbles in my stock recipe are a little bit bigger. Honestly, I think that's because this was a little more, it fermented for a little bit longer at room temperature. I mean, I had to just because they were different recipes, but I couldn't get them exact. But, if I was to figure out how to get them exact, I think that both of them would kind of have the same consistency. It's just the Polish one has a lot more flavor. So, interesting. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.